We fighting for equal justice for those with mental illness are standing side by side those who are fighting for racial justice and gender justice and justice for all those who were marginalized in this country.
I think when we think about Martin Luther King Day, we understand that there are structural and systemic racism in the United States. When we think about the Me Too movement, we understand that what's happening to women is part of structural and systemic discrimination. And when we look at people in the criminal justice system jailed because they are ill, we have to understand that in the context of systemic and structural discrimination that begins very early on.
The evidence that we have so far indicates that without attention to racism that's built into our institutions, our care delivery systems, our criminal justice systems, we're just going to reproduce the same two-tiered system of treatment and response to addiction and mental health that we've had.
When you don't have a father in the home, or you do have abuse, or you send someone to prison and then they come back without being reformed or being transformed or not being cared for as a human being, then society is just repeating the cycle.
I'd love to tell you that this is somewhat of a new and novel type of issue that we as a country are facing, the criminalization of the mentally ill. That's not the truth. It's been this way forever.
Calling attention to the inferior medical care African Americans receive, Dr. King said, of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhuman.
It is shocking how much denial our country still is in, that we could allow so many tragedies of suicide, which we know the things that we can do to interdict and really save people's lives, or in overdoses that we're not doing today. But we don't have the political will and the mandate from government at every level to really get it done the way we would if this were any other public health crisis.
It's important because every week, 10,000 men and women are released from prison who are dealing with complex PTSD. It is one of the most grave injustices that we are dealing with in our country. It is what I call the silent crisis, because I wasn't aware in that moment that my attempt to mask the hurt and pain was really my own way of addressing my trauma, because we don't have therapy available to men and women coming home from prison.
Somehow I thought speaking about my father's death would besmirch his memory. And that was so wrong, because it was that stigma that perhaps kept him from reaching out for the help that he needed. He expected to be there for others, but he didn't want to acknowledge his own struggles.
The challenge is we just have so far to go as a city, and it's just we're in a state of crisis. It's just, for me, the level of fear, not them, but the level of fear that young kids on the South and West Sides have to live with is just absolutely unacceptable. And so for me, this can't be like a 20-year journey. Like, we gotta see, how do we get as a city dramatically safe over the next 3, 4, 5 years?
What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred, is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black.